Let's get it Star Wars. Let's get it Star Wars in here. Let's get it Star Wars. Let's get it Star Wars in here.
A small rebel force has penetrated the shield and landed on Endor.
This is where the fun begins.
A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away.
This is Rebel Force Radio,
your source for the Force.
Star Wars news and commentary
With Jason Swank and Jimmy Mack.
I've seen Star Wars 500 times. Star Wars #1.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Now it's time for Rebel Force Radio.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Welcome back to Rebel Force Radio. Chut, one and all. Your source for the Force. Starting to wonder if maybe Billy D didn't see his shadow. It's starting to warm up here in the Midwest. Finally. Maybe we are going to get an early spring. That's an inside joke. So you have to be listening to Rebel Force Radio for the last couple of weeks to know what that is. So that gives you a reason to go back and check out the last couple of episodes. Now, we know it. We know that Billy D's birthday is not Groundhog Day, but we did come away finding out that Billy D. Williams does share his birthday with a very famous groundhog in Milwaukee, I think it is. Whatever.
Gordy.
With Gordy. I was thinking, didn't Billy D play a character named Gordy once? But somehow Billy D and Gordy, that name, those two names were ringing a bell to me. I don't know. It was like the Motown movie, the Jacksons movie. I don't know. Anyway, it rang a bell. No, we are excited to have you. And we actually have a little bit of a theme going on with this week's show. It's all about Kenobi. Yeah, we're already starting to count down the months, soon the weeks, till that big premiere, May 25th on Disney+. But to tide you over, we've got some more Kenobi news. We've got Kenobi popping up in a novel and some comic books. And, I think it's pretty obvious that there's some synergy and tie-in going on with the publications that are coming out. So we'll bring you up to date on all of that stuff. Plus, Jimmy Mack has been hard at work checking out the new Mandalorian Art of book, Art of Season 2. We know how much Jimmy Mack loves his Art of book, so he'll be talking about that and showing some of those little hidden nuggets as we look back on Mando Season 2 and prep for, of course, Mando Season 3. So we're looking forward to that breakdown. So as I mentioned before, Jimmy Mack is with us, and for introductions, my name is Jason Swank, and here he is from Chicago, my good friend and yours. Yeah, we're doing a show, man. Put the book down. Show prep time is over.
Hey, Jason, hey, Star Wars fans. Or should I call you J-Dog? Remember Steve Sansweet a few years ago? He was really gung-ho on getting that to take off.
It never quite
referring
did,
to Swank
did
as
it?
J-Dog.
J-Dog.
But I think everyone just likes calling you Swank. Because it's just like swank,
Swank.
That's got some kind of action to it. And but I do like Mr. Sansweet's J-Dog moniker. I might be throwing that one out there a little more often.
I was thinking about Mr. Sansweet because, one of his favorite characters is Kenobi. His all-time favorite character.
Mm-hmm. But I think he really considers the old Ben version to be his favorite of all time. So this is kind of the origin of old Ben, really.
Yeah.
If you want to look at it that way.
I was really surprised. I guess I shouldn't be in hindsight. I looked at the rundown for this week's show, and there was just so much news about Obi-Wan popping up, throughout the publishing arm of Lucasfilm. But it makes sense, given the fact that, I think that there's going to be a lot more, I don't want to say excitement's not the right word, but maybe hype, a lot more hype for the Kenobi show than there even was for Boba Fett. I mean, this is not to take anything away from Boba Fett as a character, but this is major, man. This is Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is the not just OT, it's the O of the OT.
And beyond the status of the character within the Star Wars universe. You also have star power with Ewan McGregor.
Yes.
We haven't seen that kind of star power in the 2 streaming series, live action streaming series have already debuted, The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett. While those guys are superstars to us, I mean, really, when you talk about international superstardom, they don't hold a candle to Ewan McGregor in his career.
Right.
I mean, he's legit. And so you have that. You also have a Star Wars director being female, helming an entire production herself for the first time. And we know that has been much desired among people at Lucasfilm. And yeah, it's Ben Kenobi, man.
Yeah.
You have the reunion of Anakin and Kenobi with Hayden Christensen, I should say. I always think of Roger Christian, the legendary set decorator from A New Hope. And I call him Christensen sometimes. And so right there, that was a tribute to Roger Christian, actually. I actually flip-flopped my mistake and called Hayden Christian as opposed to Christensen. But that was just a dumb mistake. I promise I won't make it again in 2022. What with this new show debuting?
Oh, yeah. You're going to be all over the Hayden Christian. What's that show comes on?
People are still calling me out for referring to the protagonist as Bob during the Book of Boba Fett after shows.
Bob? I didn't catch that one.
Bob. Yeah, people have been calling me out on that. Bob. I'm becoming well known for that, Bob. At least I didn't call him Bubba. So, as I've known some people to do, I just call him Bob. It's more of a familiar thing. I bet Boba's friends call him that, like Fennec Shan, when the cameras aren't rolling. She'll be like, hey, Bob, you want another Nuna leg, Bob? Because she's always putting her feet up on the table munching on grub. Oh, Jason just put up the poster for Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is the official poster. I have to remind people because I saw so much fan art out there on the internet.
You didn't know what was real?
Series.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Yes.
And most of the fan art looked exactly like this official poster.
Well, they might have been onto something. Yes, of course. Obi-Wan trudging through the desert with the twin sons beating down on his neck. Yes, it kind of wrote itself, or I should say painted itself, didn't it?
Mm-hmm. Sure looks like a saber is in his hands. And also, I want to add, he looks like he's dressed less like a Jedi and more like a traditional Tatooine farmer with the shorty robe.
Yeah.
You may notice.
Yeah.
I think we're getting some, because we've heard that Ben Kenobi is not wearing the traditional Jedi garb as you normally think of it in the Kenobi series. And also we've noted that Kenobi's look and the look of the Jedi in general from the prequels strongly resembles that of normal, desert dwellers on Tatooine.
Yes.
So, and I think that's done purposefully to give the Jedi a sort of humble appearance as opposed to being all flashy and golden robes and stuff. They gave the Jedi that appearance in the High Republic book series where the Jedi are dressed more like royalty, where they're wearing robes that are etched with gold highlights. It's much more flashy, and that's not what the Jedi are all about. They're like monks.
Yeah, they're not into the opulence and all of that. But it is interesting when you go back and see how similarly Alec Guinness was dressed as Uncle Owen. Right. So you came away with that thinking that was more of a Tatooine thing than it was a Jedi thing.
That's right.
And even when they introduced Yoda, I mean, yeah, you could look at it and go similar, but it wasn't that similar. Yoda wasn't dressed that similarly to old Ben, if at all. And so when it came time for them to create the look of Ewan McGregor in Phantom Menace, and the Jedi at large, if you go back and look at that making of book, which is great. I think that's the one by Laurent Bozereau. But they show some different artist concepts for what the Jedi might look like. There were some that were kind of all black, sort of almost more samurai looking. And at the end of the day, I remember reading this quote. I think it was something like, in the end, George decided to keep it more in the theme of how we were introduced to Obi-Wan in Episode 4. So I do think at the time it was more of a Tatooine thing than it was a Jedi thing.
Yeah. And then he was just playing off of that aesthetic to let you instantly identify Kenobi.
Right.
Because this was the first time George was putting another actor in one of those legendary roles. And so I think that Ewan McGregor himself benefited from having a familiar wardrobe. One that we've already seen and we've come to identify the character by. That, I think, helped Ewan McGregor actually embody the spirit of Alec Guinness a little bit more effectively. Do you recall the first time you saw Ewan McGregor in his Episode 1 wardrobe?
I do. I believe it was this cover of a Star Wars Insider magazine was the first time I saw it. I can't remember what I saw first, if it was that or if it was the leaked photos of the action figure. I remember them kind of happening around the same time because it was that Obi-Wan Kenobi figure that was the first leak from over in the East that we saw for that action figure. But I have a feeling it was the Insider magazine. It was just him in the robes.
Right. What I recall is the front cover of Entertainment Weekly. That featured Ewan McGregor. It was from March 26, 1999. And it was Ewan McGregor in his Jedi robes. And I looked at that and I just went, oh, they're going full Alec Guinness here.
I think you're right. I think that was it. It wasn't it wasn't Star Wars Insider. I think it actually was this image because I remember I subscribed. I was so into Star Wars news at this time, and I didn't have the money. I was just a college student. I subscribed to Entertainment Weekly because of things like this. I wanted every more. I wasn't running to the internet. The internet. Yes, there was internet, but it didn't work like the internet works today.
No,
as far as these
close.
news sites and stuff, it's news sites and stuff. But this was an image that I remember staring at for a long time.
Staring at it.
Yeah,
forgetting and just going, oh, I can't believe I have to wait 2 more months for Episode 1. And also I had to wait 2 more months to become a dad for the first time. So I had these emotions kind of flooding me. And my wife would be like, in April 99, she'll be like, can you believe it? Only 1 more month. And I was like, yes, I can't wait. Obi-Wan and Darth Maul and Anakin Skywalker. And she'd be like, well, yeah, but also like the birth of our child, your first. Oh yeah, that too.
Oh no, I was just running through baby names. Maul, Obi,
Maul, Anakin,
right?
Darth. But yeah, it was a conflict. It was a conflict. But I was able to get both of them and be just as happy. So that was life with me in early 1999. Not pretty. As anticipation was eating me inside and out on a number of different levels.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're a first-time parent, you go around the house and you put those little plugs into all of the wall outlets.
Yeah.
You baby-proof. And then you bring the baby home and the baby doesn't even move for like the first 7 months. You're like, what was that furious activity I was going through there? I had plenty of time to baby-proof the house.
Yeah, mom gets into that nesting phase where you find yourself repainting all the different rooms in the house. I can't bring a baby home in this place. I remember those conversations.
Like the baby is going to know. Like the baby's so judgmental.
Yeah.
They're like, what, they didn't even paint the place for me? Jeez.
Robin egg blue, liver? Really? Oh, well, anyway. All right, let's do it. We got a really good voicemail here we want to play for you. So check it out. Let's check in with some listener mail.
You must contact me.
Play back the entire message.
What message? Message after the message.
The Emperor commands you to make contact with him. It's a trick. Send no reply.
Hey guys, it's Stetson from Utah. I was just calling about a thought. I don't know if you consider it a theory. Wonder what you guys thought of it. So I was thinking the armor, she's very strict, obviously, on the Mandalorians keeping their helmet on. So maybe the reason behind that is it's helping her conceal her identity of who she is. And then also along the lines of a thought that you guys talked about a couple weeks ago of her helmet having those horn-like structures. And who do we know that was hanging out with Darth Maul earlier? Kira. So maybe, just a thought, like I was saying, she is, this armorer, and I don't think it'd be that hard for someone of her power to get Mandalorian armor and pull this off. Just wondering what you guys are thinking, that Kira could possibly be the armorer. Thanks, guys.
Hey, appreciate the call. Thank you very much. Okay. When I first heard this, I dismissed it immediately. And then I started thinking, well, what do we know about the armorer? The armorer seems to be, if not the leader, a leader in the sort of foundling wing of the Mandalore faith ideology, what have you. And what do we know about Kira? We know that Kira we don't have confirmation that she was an orphan per se, but she ran the streets with Han Solo.
Proxima said something about saving her from a silo. I don't know what kind of silo, like a missile silo or a grain silo, or what kind of silo we're talking about.
Yeah.
So, maybe it was a coaxium silo.
Right. So I'm thinking, okay, well, someone that might have an affinity or a soft spot for orphans, runaways, things like that. And I started thinking about the age, and I'm like, well, I mean, the armorer definitely has some miles on her tires. You can tell she has a certain wisdom about her. She's lived through some stuff. And I thought, well, she would probably be around the same age as Han Solo. Maybe slightly younger. I don't know, man. I think it's a cool theory. I really do. I mean, it's not that I'm, fanboying out over Kira. I didn't dislike the character. I didn't love the character. She was just kind of there. But it's kind of a cool theory.
Yeah, I mean, as Star Wars fans, we always want things to tie in and mystery characters to be revealed as somebody. I think the character is firmly the Mandalorian armorer, and that's her story. That's who the character is. We're not even getting teased with any kind of Kira sort of foreshadowing.
No, we're getting no foreshadowing about there being much of a backstory to speak of for the armorer. Yeah.
And it seems like she's been around Din's life his whole life.
Mm.
That's the vibe I get off.
Yeah. They go way back.
She is almost a mother character to him. She's the matron, the matriarch.
Yeah.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, right.
And she sounds a lot like Emily Swallow. And so don't anyone tell Emily Swallow that her character might suddenly turn into Amelia Clark, because she might have some hang-ups about that.
Yeah. Although maybe Emily Swallow plays an older version of Kira. I don't think this is likely to be the case. I just thought that it was a pretty clever theory, and a few things started to line up for me, and I like the creativity, because it could be it could be a fun story. Do you think, because there were so many rumors about Kira showing up in Book of Boba Fett and Crimson Dawn, being sort of the big bad at the end. That was something that didn't occur. Though that doesn't mean that, as we pointed out in the last after show, all these things that didn't occur that we thought would, the key word is yet. There's more to be written, perhaps, about what's going on Tatooine and the crime syndicates and all of that. But
this is true.
But it didn't happen yet. Do you think there's a likelihood that we're going to go to the Crimson Dawn well for some of these? Because it seems like if they were going to, that Book of Boba Fett would have been the right opportunity.
Yeah, but there's other series on the horizon. Mm-hmm. I think there is a lot of potential for the Crimson Dawn to come back. And I think there were big plans in place to have a Crimson Dawn storyline that was going to run concurrently throughout other Star Wars films beyond the Solo storyline. Mm-hmm. But that was when Star Wars was primarily a cinematic property. Now, Star Wars is primarily a streaming property. So I don't know if any of these ideas are just shelved and pushed aside maybe for when Star Wars does eventually return to the cinema, or they could be scrapped because the one Star Wars film that they were a part of did not do well at the box office, and that isn't lost on anyone at Disney, especially the parent company. Maybe people at Lucasfilm are sentimental about the story development they've done for Crimson Dawn and for Kira. And I think a lot of that's being transferred over to the Marvel comic line. Right now, there's a Crimson Dawn title out there. It's a mini-series. And I think that's where a lot of the Kira story is going to be told. I think that a lot of fans were getting excited about Kira showing up in the Book of Boba Fett purely based on Reddit rumors that somehow gained steam.
Yeah.
Me and Swank, we're talking to this mic 4 hours a week. And when we turn the mics off, nobody says a word about what we said. Except in our Facebook group and in our Patreon page.
Right.
But somehow, Jason, you called it Star Wars speculation porn in some private messaging going on with me the other day. Because we were talking where do we fit into the current landscape of Star Wars fan entertainment? We know where we are as a podcast, but when you look at the YouTube stuff, it's that's just kind of a tool for us. We don't really prioritize YouTube, although our YouTube channel is growing.
Yeah,
it's not our priority. Our priority is this audio podcast. I don't mean to pull back the curtain so much, but Jason, you said such a funny thing. I got to set it up a little bit.
Yeah,
and Swank, you're like, well, we're not the type of show that is banking on Lucasfilm's failure, nor are we weird Star Wars speculation porn. And I'm like, that is the funniest damn thing I've heard. Star Wars speculation porn. You know who you are. Yeah. And you guys are banking in big time. Good for you. But I also think you're taking advantage and patronizing the fan base. I think here on our show, we try to keep it real, and any sort of commentary we have comes out of a passion for Star Wars and out of our gut.
Yeah.
We're not trying to pull a fast one on it.
Yeah, we're not trying to lure people in with
clickbait and all of that stuff.
Thumbnails and YouTube video titles that, aren't really anything about what the video is about. And it's a whole game, and I get it. It's just not our thing. And I think it has to do with where we came from, as podcasters. We had one medium, and it was the audio medium to work with. Now we've got some of these other tricks and stuff, and it's great. But that would be really hard. It would be hard to do hardcore Star Wars speculation porn just as an audio podcast because, they rely on all this fan art and things that kind of create these images in your head. So, yeah, just very, very different place where we come at this stuff.
Yeah. No weird speculation porn going on here. Well, maybe sometimes.
Well, not the weird stuff, just the normal stuff,
But I promise you guys, whatever we bring up on the show isn't stuff we're just like pulling out of the ether. We're not making it up. Anything that we report to you guys, there's some substance behind it. If it's something we've heard, then we like to share it with you guys. Yeah. There are some things we hear we don't tell you guys because we want to maintain friendships. we don't want to trash our reputations, but there's been times I've kicked myself for not reporting on tips we've received in the past. And I've kept my mouth shut due to friendship. But,
and it's not always, it's not always about, being first. It's not always about being right. In this case, it's about, I think, first of all, it's about having fun and enjoying it. And, we talked about that, Jim, your hashtag, just enjoy Star Wars or enjoy Star Wars. Yeah. But, looking at it with a critical eye, that is enjoyment for some people. We do enjoy looking at what is, what could have been, what might be there. I think a lot of it, just comes down to, your motivation. And for me, it's always about digging in a little deeper and broadening my understanding of this universe and learning something about the real world at the same time, because there's so much. I mean, great myths. And that's why you just come back to Star Wars time and time again, because it is such a great classic myth that keeps expanding, and great myths are great and keep being told and expanded upon because they do sort of help you to navigate the real world. That's what they're there. They're almost like maps in a way. Maps aren't the real thing. They're representations of the real thing, and they help you navigate the real thing. And that's, I think, what good myths and storytelling is.
Like a bantha.
All right, let's get into this. I want to see this Mandalorian Season 2 Art of book. So let's check it out.
Let's do it.
I have good news for you, my lord.
That's good news. Come closer, I have good news.
I mean, could this cover be any cuter? First of all, I mean, they really get you with Grogu reaching out. You got Din Djarin, the Mandalorian, helmeted, holding up Baby Yoda, little Grogu, and Grogu is leaning in and putting his little paw, his little hand,
claw
on Mando's helmet. I mean, it's a really emotional image, and it brings the memories of their goodbye in Season 2 to the forefront, even though we actually stroked his real face.
Well, there was a lot of secrecy about that season finale, especially the inclusion of Luke Skywalker in there. So we're not going to see too much concept art from that.
Well, that was something I wanted to ask you, because that was something that was well documented in the Disney Gallery show. They went so far as to actually create fake concept art. We'll get to that in a minute. But so, Jim, even with the publication schedule of this book, is it that there just wasn't time to put the stuff in there, or there just wasn't a lot of Luke Skywalker concept work done, period?
There was no concept art done for Luke Skywalker, period. And we'll get to that in a minute.
All right.
Because the great thing about this book is it takes you through all 8 episodes, right? That there were 8 episodes in the season.
Chapters of
Mandalorian Season 2. And along with breakdowns of the concept art for each episode, spectacular concept art on every page of this book. I have to say, I did enjoy this book more than the Season 1 book. And I think that's just probably because I think I'm admitting to myself I enjoyed Season 2 of The Mandalorian more than Season 1. And how could you not? Because they really went for broke in Mandalorian Season 2. They saw their formula worked, and they pushed it at times almost to the extreme. And with all of this information in the book, you get a lot of great quotes from Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau throughout. And of course, this is a Favreau thing. I mean, this is all coming from the mind of Jon Favreau in collaboration with Dave Filoni and their directors. But great behind the scenes information about the creation of The Mandalorian. And here's an interesting passage. I'm going to read it. This is Jon Favreau talking, and he says, as I was first pitching The Mandalorian story in November 2017 and figuring out what I wanted the show to look like, I gave myself the freedom to tell the story I wanted to tell. And to his credit, Dave Filoni never said, oh, you can't have Mandalorians not removing their helmets be the rule. We've already established they can remove their helmets. I even played a Mandalorian character, Pre-Vizsla, whose helmet was off most of the time. But there were a few things I wanted to explore. One is why we don't see a lot of Mandalorians in the original trilogy and sequels. You see them so much in the Clone Wars, but you don't see any of them now. The other was, how do you get back to what George did, which was treat the characters almost like action figures? How do you get back to how young kids interact with Star Wars, the colors, the shapes, and the characters? By keeping the Mando's helmet on all the time, it's not about the face underneath it. It's about the helmet. Same with Boba Fett. You don't think about what's under the helmet. You think about that mysterious silhouette. I wanted to preserve the magic of that or return to it, knowing full well that we would get complex later, that there are some groups that stick to the old rules and other groups that have evolved, like Bo-Katan's group, that are dealing with more of the politics of the moment. So that's interesting insight into the whole helmet on, helmet off. We've debated about this among fandom. We've seen Mandalorians with the helmet on. It was never a religion then. Why is it a religion now? Well, it's all very simple. That's the story Favreau wanted to tell. And he wasn't being held back by old lore. He was looking to actually build upon old lore and expand upon it.
Yeah. As
opposed to being a slave to the rules.
Well, it's interesting when you read this quote, Jim, because he's defending his decision of keeping the helmet on. And yet we would then later see with the Book of Boba Fett, it was all about helmet off. Now he references that. He says, well, that's something that, we'll get into that complexity later. Mm-hmm. So maybe that was an idea that he had. But it seemed to me that Favreau was sort of team helmet on a bit here. At least that's how he comes across. And one might say that that's unconventional for a television show. Or anything where you've got the star having their face covered, and he's saying, but I want to go back to the days of the action figures where you didn't have removable helmets. We didn't.
There were no removable helmets.
No, that didn't happen.
We never had them. God, we never had them. Not until very late in the game when they put that Luke Stormtrooper out.
Yeah, that's right.
That was very late in the game as far as Star Wars' original shelf life goes.
Well, and let's not forget Leia as Boosh in the Return of the Jedi.
Removable helmets.
And Lando as Skiff-Guard. Removable helmet.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I know. That one's not right. It's not. It's more like I don't know what you call that. It is a helmet with a.
It's a mask.
Yeah,
but like the action figure technology didn't advance that far until the Return of the Jedi era, and it still was uncommon for a long time because they always said it made the heads look too small.
Right, and they do that. Luke Skywalker, that Power of the Force, Luke Skywalker with the removable helmet, he's got a little pea head.
Yeah,
and Leia had
he
a
has
little
no
pea
neck.
Head.
And no neck.
And no neck, that's right.
Yeah. So that's troublesome. But Jeff Favs, he's just playing with his action figures. That's all he's doing. And he's, understanding what the lore is. You can't say he doesn't understand the lore because he even references the fact that he voiced Pre-Vizsla in all those episodes.
Yep.
He clearly saw the character walking around with the helmet off most of the time.
Right.
So you can't, claim he's ignorant about the lore or anything. He's just looking to tell his story. And by doing so, then expanding the lore. That's when Star Wars is getting done right. Not when it's done just to subvert expectations. It's being done in the name of telling a story. Yeah. So that's what I think is important about Favreau and his connection with Star Wars. So we have a few more pictures we could scroll through here, and I could give you brief explanations about it. Now, this is an actual maquette from Return of the Jedi that was being used to base the look of the Gamorrean guards for that first episode of season 2 when they're wrestling and John Leguizamo's one-eyed John Leguizamo is there and everything. So this is a maquette, and Favreau actually tweeted this or Instagrammed it. He sort of gave us as a tease, but that's the basis for the Gamorreans we see in not only The Mandalorian, but as we saw in most episodes of the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a little curious. I like that they can sort of explain the change in the look of the Gamorreans by saying, well, we went back to some of the early concepts. That's sort of a real-world explanation, but not a real in-universe explanation. And I don't know. I that is one thing that would constantly jump out at me throughout Book of Boba Fett was these Gamorreans that had basically by not having them in sort of the full body fat suit and all that, they just seemed like guys wearing masks to me more than the Gamorreans of Return of the Jedi. And that also could be because I've just grown up looking at that. So,
yeah. Now, I have a confession to make. I always felt that the Gamorreans from Return of the Jedi, while I always loved them, I always felt they were a little Muppety.
I had a feeling that word was going to come out.
Yeah, Muppety. Muppety. And that's what a lot of us fans were saying in 1983 when Jedi came out. Is dare to be Muppety is what's going on here. Dare to be cute? Yeah. Dare to be Muppety takes it to a whole nother level. Because the Muppet Star Wars connection was already made in Empire Strikes Back with Yoda. The concept is being taken to the extreme with Return of the Jedi. By this time in the course of history, we've grown very accustomed to all those alien designs in Return of the Jedi and the way that they're all presented. And Jason just put an image of a Gamorrean guard up on the screen, and he looks fabulous. But, I mean, you could almost see the performer's skin underneath the mask there. The eye holes.
Yeah, that is true. Look at this dude.
Look, he's just peeking out from in there.
Now, this, I think, is a publicity shot. This could be maybe just even for, continuity.
Right.
But, there's no... I think they would typically, too, black out their, the skin around the eyes. But, here I am talking about they were much more realistic back in 83, and here's the dude.
Now, the idea that they put all that drool on their mouth, I thought that was always really cool.
Yeah.
Like, okay, that takes it up a level. I mean, you don't see Miss Piggy drooling on, that takes it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
And they are cool, but I mean, there's just something very rubbery suit looking about them.
Yeah.
And that was my initial reaction.
And isn't Jon Favreau your age, Jim?
Yeah, we're about the same age. I think he's a couple years older than me.
Maybe Jon Favreau thought they looked a little Muppety. Maybe he
wanted them to look a little more real.
Yeah. And hence, you get this. And then, so if you imagine yourself, you're Jon Favreau, you're thinking that the Gamorreans looked a little Muppety, and then you see this maquette, and you go, why didn't they do this?
Why didn't they do it?
We're going to do this.
Looking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get us a couple MMA fighters and a can of green spray paint. And off we go, in front of cameras. Off you go to the volume.
Right. Dad bods and all.
Mm-hmm. But, I mean, that's a little explanation behind it because a lot of us fans were questioning the aesthetic take on the Gamorreans in the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah.
And that's where John's head is. It's, again, concept art coming into reality in the Star Wars universe, as we've seen so many times with Ralph McQuarrie's work and now Doug Chiang's work, concept work from 20 years ago, via things like the Scorpionic droid, Annihilator droid. It's being reintroduced in the live action, and we get these maquettes coming to life here.
Yeah, we did something. I got to just throw this in real quick because it was a real-world Star Wars reference where at the day job there was this idea we've had this idea for about 5 years, and we finally had an opportunity to make this happen. And it was a great opportunity for me to sort of deliver this lesson, which is never throw away a good idea. Be like George Lucas. Always keep your ideas, and that I think it's great for anybody who works in a creative field, whether you're a writer or any kind of an artist. Keep that stuff. Paul Bateman talked about, when they would go into Ralph McQuarrie's house, and he's like, you'd move something, and there'd be a picture, or a drawing. There were drawings scattered everywhere, and it's like the guy didn't want to throw anything away. And I'm not calling him a hoarder or saying you should be a hoarder, but my point is that keep those ideas, keep the ideas, because you never know when you might need to go back to them, even the ones that you reject and they're not right in the moment. And I think that's just Star Wars. That's something I love about the creation of Star Wars, is the way they come back to this stuff.
No, it's a lesson I learned way early in my career, and I do find it paying off time and time again, where I'll go back to material from 20, 30 years ago.
Wow. Yeah.
And start working on it again. Crazy.
So you can see why George doesn't want to, or didn't want to, put the finishing touches on his movies. He was always going back and adding things. Yeah.
True. So they have a whole archive then, and they can tap into that. Oh, this is an interesting photo. You can't see it because our big heads are in the way.
Our heads are in the way.
There's a crate dragon attacking some sand people. I just thought it was a rather striking image. If you scroll down, you'll see the sand people all holding on for their lives. I love that image.
That's cool.
The crate dragon episode from season 2, the season 2 premiere. It was just absolutely one of the most stunning moments, I think, in the history of Star Wars, was watching that crate dragon in action and knowing how steeped into the lore of Star Wars and the history of Star Wars crate dragons are. I mean, the skeleton scene on the Dune Sea in the original 1977 film. Right. And here it is, all these years, 40 years later, we're seeing the thing in action. 45 years later, we're seeing the thing in action finally on a new Star Wars TV show.
Well, and you can see why Obi-Wan Kenobi would have used the crate dragon call or sound to scare off the sand people, because they didn't want to end up like this in this picture.
No, sand people are no fools. They hear that noise, they get the hell out of there.
Right.
They get the hell out of there. So you might call them primitive savages. Now, here's an interesting shot. It's an artist's rendering of what it looks like when a Tusken Raider gets that crate dragon spit or that vomit, that acidic vomit thrown at it. And it almost melts away, sort of like the Wicked Witch of the West there.
I was thinking, what a world, what a world, what a world.
Yeah. All right, whatever. I'm just
melting.
Silly. But that's from chapter 9. I guess it would be The Marshal, which was the season 2 premiere. Mm-hmm. So good stuff there. This is just stuff I liked. Here's some early concept art of Boba Fett and what he's going to look like in the show. And you can see here he's vastly different in appearance.
Almost has like a military style uniform. Like almost like, if you know what, Jim, if you would have shown me just the image on the right, where he's not, carrying the rifle, I'd have looked at this and I thought, oh, is that a clone? Is that a clone that's showing up in this era of Star Wars, an old clone? I wouldn't have thought, oh, that's got to be Boba Fett, because there's just nothing I don't think, to make him look like Boba Fett here. It almost looks like an Imperial type uniform.
Well, here's what the artist says. his last name is Mateus. I should find his full name. You know, this is like Groundhog Day again, because I feel like I do this every time I research and present these reviews of the art of books. I get to a name and they only give the last name. So I have to go to the who's who section of the book. It's the same format that they've been putting these art of books in for the past, gosh,
well, at least there's a who's who in there.
There is a who's who. Brian Mateus or Mattias. Brian Mattias. He says he was with this particular design of Boba Fett, playing with something a little more Mad Max for Boba's cloak here, giving him a fighter look at his core posture, and even just the wrapped gloves, where he could fight off Tusken Raiders with his bare hands if he had to. Now, obviously, Brian Mattias didn't realize that Boba actually is a member of the Tusken Raider family.
Right. Yeah, I don't think he was
fighting them up.
Yeah, exactly.
But based on some of the concept art, here, I'm going to hold a picture up to the camera because this is a great one. And for our podcast listening audience, I get it. This is a little bit visual. We're trying to describe everything we see as best as possible. We are shooting video of this. You can see RFR full show video if you are an RFR All Access member on Patreon. But because of the nature of this segment, we'll put the entire book review video up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Rebel Force Radio. So, Jason, check out this artwork. Look at Boba.
Oh, wow, look at that.
And you see, so he has the trappings of a Tusken Raider, including the bandolier and the gaffy stick and their long-range sniper rifle. Mm-hmm. But for me, looking at that, I think of a guy who is just living off the land and Tatooine by himself. He's a loner. And those are just trophies from his encounters with Tusken Raiders over time. And that's how I was thinking. I was thinking that about Boba before the Book of Boba Fett series. Now, of course, I look at it all very differently.
Yeah.
And what we have is a Boba Fett that has evolved because all of his greatest attributes have been given to the Mandalorian in 2 seasons of that character. So if you're going to bring Boba back, he has to be something different. Otherwise, we have 2 Mandalorians on the screen.
Right.
So I that's what I say to people who complain that they didn't get to see the Boba Fett they always wanted to see. I always say to them, what are you talking about? You've seen the Boba Fett you've always wanted to see in 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. So count your damn blessings. Count your damn blessings.
All right, now I'm really excited about this one.
Of course you are, Swain.
You know, I was looking at the rundown and I couldn't. I did a triple take. I was reading through, and I'm like, they did not just reference what I read they referenced, but we're looking at an image of the port. What is the name of this?
Trask.
Trask, yes.
Trask was featured in the 3rd episode.
This is the
of
Frog
season
Lady
2 of the Mandalorian.
Stuff.
Yes, the heiress. The heiress. Okay, and this episode featured, of course, the Mandalorian debut of Bo-Katan, and featured the Mando parking his busted-up ship at this shipyard, this fishing village. And the fishing village looks familiar to some Star Wars fans who are also big fans of 1980s Popeye film with Robin Williams.
Oops. Oh, Sweet Haven. That's right.
Sweet Haven.
Popeye Village. So here's a shot of Trask, and here is a shot of Sweet Haven, the Popeye Village from the 1980 film. This is in Malta, and this set still exists.
It does. It's
on
a
my
tourist
bucket
attraction.
list.
Much like how Hobbiton still exists in New Zealand for tourists to visit, the Popeye set from 1980 has been maintained for over 42 years. So a young Jason Swank could have it on his bucket list.
Yeah.
I would love to take Jason there, actually.
We got to get Big Steve to go with us, too, because he's the only fellow Popeye 1980 fan that I have. But But this was cool. I
Okay,
mean,
so
it wasn't just a visual connection. It's actually in print in this book. They reference it.
Well, legendary Star Wars concept designer Ryan Church, who dates back to the Star Wars prequels. I believe he started on episode 2 with George Lucas. And so he's one of those veterans that are still around working on Star Wars. And here's what Ryan says about the fishing village Trask. This is quite ramshackle, and it doesn't look very Star Wars, and I totally get it. But I wanted it to look like the Popeye set, which is one of the best sets ever, built in Malta. So he is specifically paying tribute. He hears Fishing Village, and all he could think of is Sweet Haven, right? That's the name of the
That
town
is the name of the
where
town,
Popeye
yeah.
lived? Yes.
Yeah.
Sweet Haven, where, I'm surprised they didn't put some Quarren walking around saying, "I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a Mon Calamari today." But yeah, so that's
that was awesome.
A Popeye reference in
Crazy.
Star Wars. Never thought I'd see the day,
No.
but here we are. The world's gone crazy, no question about it. Oh, I love this thing. So do you remember when the Mandalorian was on board that fishing vessel and the squid head was there and he threw the pram with Baby Yoda into the ship's hold, which was filled with water, and this just all we saw was this gaping maw of a mouth with teeth.
Our hearts just sank when that happened. Our hearts dropped into our stomachs. How's he going to get out of this jam?
Stay tuned next week, Mando friends. But this thing is it's the Trask monster, and all we really see is the mouth. And of course, Din Djarin dove right in after the pram.
Didn't even think.
And
that was so amazing. He
about it.
just jumped right in.
Yeah, he loves that little guy, that little Baby Yoda guy. But this is artwork by Alsman. Alsman is the artist. Let's go back to that Who's Who page.
Who's Who?
Mr. Alsman certainly deserves a little credit.
And I remember
Christian Alsman. Yes, I've heard of Christian. Christian Alsman. And he created this Trask monster. He says the focus here is on the mouth closing and how to make that feel Star Wars. I knew we weren't going to see much else other than that giant maw, like a sea sarlacc is what he calls it, a sea sarlacc, and it certainly resembles just
It
that.
sure did, because, we saw this long before we saw Boba Fett show up in this series, and I thought, wow, that's exactly what they're going for. They're going for the Boba Fett going into the Sarlacc vibe, except in this case, he's not getting in there by accident. He's deliberately jumping in. At that point, I didn't think we were going to see. I didn't know we were going to see Boba. There were rumors of Tim Morrison showing up, but a lot of us thought it was going to be a Rex. And then, as it went on, we realized it was obviously Boba. But
yeah. So sea sarlacc. Yes, I see sarlacc. Well, what do you mean? You see a sarlacc, or it's a sea sarlacc? Shut up and run! Okay. I had to include
Baby Yoda,
this
what's
picture.
going on? Oh, did he up? Is when he spit up?
Yeah, this is a shot of Baby Yoda blowing chunks after he ate too many of those cookies in that episode.
Oh, and he went to school? He was stealing the kids' cookies?
Right. And I just love that image. The visual, it was just unexpected. But again, they go there. They go there. And so Baby Yoda, as so many babies do, they upchuck. And this is, again, Christian Alsman with this design. He says, this was an interesting project. He said that they spent a week working on the cookie design alone.
Wow.
And it just resembles some over-the-counter stuff at the end.
Yeah.
But the name of this piece of artwork is Cookies Tossed by Christian Alsman. Cookies Tossed. And this is interesting because then it kind of opens up some conversation I want to have about George Lucas actually being able to use his influence and assist Dave Filoni on Baby Yoda, which is something we don't hear too much about.
No.
You know, George Lucas giving notes on Grogu, well, he did. And this is in the book here, and it says, this is Dave Filoni saying, I had a talk with George at one point about the child, and his main concern was that the kid had to have a proper amount of training. I also started talking to John about the possibility that Ahsoka could actually learn the child's name because she's the only person who could actually talk to him. And that's where I was having ideas of them listening to each other's minds. I was really interested in that moment and that scene. So that was all started by George, you know, that little Grogu, he has already received Jedi training. He's not a blank slate. And then that gave a starting point for Ahsoka to then communicate with him and display information about him. Because I didn't know if Ahsoka was coming from, like, knowledge of Grogu, like she knew him back in the day at the temple, or if this was the first time they met and she was just getting that information from him. Well, it appears pretty clear here that Dave Filoni intended this to be their first meeting, and they were actually connecting via the Force. And so Dave was pretty thrilled with the fact that Jon Favreau gave Filoni the opportunity, because this is a script Dave Filoni wrote for Chapter 13, The Jedi, which featured the live-action debut of Ahsoka Tano and the showdown with the Magistrate, and of course then Din Djarin being handed his marching orders to connect Grogu with the magic rock on Tython to attract a Jedi, which also tells me that Ahsoka didn't know Luke was out there. Because I started watching the Book of Boba Fett, and Ahsoka is there with Luke as he's building that Jedi temple. So I'm like, have these guys they know each other? Are they connected? How did she know he was there? But I don't think Ahsoka knew where Luke was until Luke made his big appearance there to save Grogu. I think then
that
the
put him on the
in the Force,
Jedi radar, so to speak.
Yeah. The tremors in the Force triggered Ahsoka then to search him out. But it wasn't until R2 really reached out to Ahsoka.
So it could be that the exertion of Jedi power, of Force power, creates some sort of disturbance to where other Jedi would sense that happening. Yeah.
I've always believed that to be the case.
Yeah.
And they said Yoda hit out on Dagobah because he could connect to the Force there and be shrouded by all the life forms that are living on that planet. So that would kind of mask his connection to the Force, and he'd be able to maintain his exile there without Darth Vader getting triggered. Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was almost like a force field. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So Favreau let Filoni have that moment where Grogu's name gets revealed in a script written by Dave Filoni, not Jon Favreau.
Right. So
a rare script not written by Jon Favreau for The Mandalorian.
So Filoni named Grogu.
No. Here's the information on that. John let me go there and write this episode about the child, which includes his backstory. He told me the kid's name because he named him.
Oh,
John
Favreau did. Okay.
Yes. John let me go there. He knows I'm very protective of Ahsoka and her history and what she's about. So Favreau's taking notes on the way that Filoni keeps his cards close to his chest about his characters.
Yeah, here's my Ahsoka.
And I think it was put out on the table. Well, how about we have Ahsoka train Grogu? You know, why doesn't Ahsoka train Grogu?
Right.
Why does she pass up on it and let Luke Skywalker do it? Well, my feeling was, well, it's because she didn't consider herself a Jedi anymore after walking away from the Order. But I think that's a loosey-goosey interpretation of what's going on. What the reality is that Dave Filoni had always intended for Ahsoka to follow a different path. He has her story in his head. And he wants to stay honest to that. So he wasn't going to allow any wiggle room where Ahsoka was suddenly training Grogu because he never considered that part of her story. He's got a big picture for Ahsoka, thus the necessity of an Ahsoka live-action series. It's because Dave has to get this story told.
Yeah.
And he's not going to tell it anymore in animation. He's moved up to the big leagues, the live-action league, and that's where Ahsoka is going with him. She's his ride or die, and and so that's really cool to note that Favreau then would see Filoni and go, oh, you know, he keeps it pretty solid and pretty locked up, and so then Favreau was able to trust Filoni. Because, you know, if you're a writer, you don't want to tell people what is happening. You don't want to tell that to people unless they absolutely have to know, like somebody at ILM.
Right.
And they're taking a Christmas break, and so they want people at ILM to work during the Christmas break. So then they get their hints. Well, you know what could happen? Yeah, we're thinking about bringing the Dark Troopers back. Merry Christmas! And so, what artist then goes off on Christmas break and isn't drawing
they want to
pictures
draw
of Dark
They
Troopers?
want to draw Dark Troopers, Death Troopers. Yes,
there's a method to the madness here,
Right.
folks. But when it comes to big things like revealing Baby Yoda's name, Favreau wants that to be communicated via his script first and foremost. He's not going to be telling people, and also that stuff leaks. The more people know, the internet. So the necessity of secrecy is paramount, and Favreau recognizes that with Filoni, which is cool.
Very cool. All right, what else we got here? We got
what else we got? All right, this is just simple and quick. This is just a quick little shot of Din Djarin. He still has his early Beskar armor. He doesn't have the shiny silver stuff. So I was surprised to find this image in the Season 2 Art of book. But very simply, Christian Alsman says this was, of course, riffing on Doug's design of Darth Maul's speeder from Episode 1. So you know that speeder that Darth Maul is riding around on Tatooine when the droids, the floaty Sith droids come up and you're like, and then he jumps on the bike and flies. It's one of my favorite visuals from Episode
so
1.
Cool. It's like a Sith motorcycle.
And
Sith
that's
Harley.
what Din Djarin is riding on this shot. It was just a concept, but one that I would not be opposed to actually seeing come to fruition. All right, next piece of concept art is Ahsoka. This looks like a piece of concept art before Rosario Dawson actually got the role of Ahsoka. But if you scroll down a little bit, Jason, you'll note that her head tails are really long.
Whoa, they
she
keep
has
going.
to wrap them.
Yeah.
They keep going and going. And that's a lot of fans were complaining about Ahsoka's head tails and how they were short. And we were assuming it was just because of the practical nature of shooting Ahsoka in live action. It's hard with those big, long prosthetics hanging off of her head. And so here's Filoni. And he talks a little bit about the Leku, if you will, or the Montrals. God, how many names do those head tails have? But here's what Dave says. What if the Ahsoka that we have in animation was actually based on this live-action version of Ahsoka? One of the things you would do in animation is an exaggeration, making the Montrals bigger. Once they're in real life, it suddenly becomes a little less believable to the eye, at least for me. And if you ever see footage of Shakti from the prequels in action, there's a lot of rubbery movement in the Montrals. That works great for that character in the background, as she was. But if you're talking a featured character right up front delivering drama, you have to make it all seem as natural as possible. And I don't want you staring at the Montrals and the Leku.
No, it's not polite.
So Filoni
yeah,
is
if you ever meet a Twi'lek, or no, sorry, not a Twi'lek, Togrutan, right?
Right.
You don't stare at the Montrals. Eyes up.
Right. They wear shirts that over the Montrals. It says my eyes are up here. And
That's
there's an
right.
arrow
That's right. You don't do that.
Yes.
It's considered rude.
Or flattering, depending on
the Togrutan.
Togrutan themselves. Yes, it could go either way, and depending on the age of the Togrutan too. I mean,
right.
After a while, you get tired of people not looking at your Montrals.
Yeah, someday you'll complain. No one looks at my Montrals anymore.
God, when I was younger, they all were just staring at my Leku. Now nobody cares about my head tails. And we know this happens in the Star Wars universe because Pelimoto has a little thing for head tails, as we saw with her in the Major Domo in the season finale of Book of Boba Fett. She loves some tail. She loves some tail. Now, the next picture here, this is just, it's a nice little picture of Ahsoka meeting Grogu as Din Djarin looks on with the scorched environment of that planet that the magistrate was at. That's really interesting about it. It was called, what was that planet? Corvus? Corvus, was that the name of it? The planet? Yeah, I think it was. But they say something really interesting about it was that Filoni was inspired by those massive brush fires that have been wiping out Northern California for the last few summers. Seeing the scorched earth left behind in its wake and the forests all burned out and stuff, that actually was kind of inspirational to Filoni, who lives up in Northern California. Right. And, some of those brush fires came dangerously close to Filoni's house and his neighborhood. And so I was like, wow, that's really interesting factoid right there, how real life is dictating some of the things we're seeing in Star Wars. Plus, it was just a damn cool environment to begin with.
Yes, it was her introduction when that nighttime sequence and she's cutting through with those lightsabers, in the dark. It's just another incredible moment in Star Wars visually.
Stunning visual.
Yeah,
stunning visual. Now, the magistrate in that episode, the Jedi, was originally supposed to be a guy, and then Jon Favreau shifted to have the magistrate be a female. And according to the book, John was very insistent that the person playing the magistrate had to be somebody that was obviously skilled with martial arts. And we did a deep search trying to find somebody who could embody this character, Filoni says. Then I happened upon Diana Inosanto's name and her history and her father, Dan Inosanto, who is a martial arts legend. Her family connections to Bruce Lee, Dan Inosanto being his student, and Diana his goddaughter. Yeah. And that just felt right to me. Then when we called her in, we found out she's somebody who watches Clone Wars and Rebels with her kids. She was ecstatic. And I said, well, you're going to fight, right? And she almost fell over right there.
I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah.
How cool that I didn't realize that she was a fan and was sharing that with her kids and stuff. That's awesome. Yeah.
Yes.
And what a legacy. I mean, Bruce Lee, incredible.
I've had a minimal amount of conversation with her online via direct messages, and she is a very nice lady.
Oh,
I will say that. I will definitely say that. So what else do we got? We got anything else here?
We do. This guy looks familiar.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we're getting closer here toward the end of season 2, and this would be from the penultimate episode, if you will, the episode that featured Bill Burr and the Mandalorian raiding an Imperial base. The episode is The Believer.
Oh, hey, by the way, did you see that Bill Burr, Mayfeld, got a 3 3/4 inch action figure?
Yep.
Okay.
I pre-ordered it this morning from Target.com, and I eagerly await the cancellation of that order. Because Target sucks when it comes to online ordering of collectibles.
Yes, I'm so excited to get that cancellation notice. Oh, my God.
I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to it.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I just had to draw it out because, we like to give Hasbro props when they finally come out with the new 4-inch action figure.
Yeah, and I also invested in that Jabba's throne room. I look forward to getting that in the second half of 2023.
Yeah.
A year and a half. Well, I waited a year and a half for this bad boy, the Razor Crest, which is now in-house. I was gonna
mention this for our podcast listeners, but perched over Jimmy Mac's left shoulder is the Razor Crest in all its glory. That beautiful vintage packaging with the double racetrack. It's just fantastic. Jim, there's been a lot of I've noticed there's been a lot of really good reviews. I've watched several of them on YouTube, and everyone is wanting to know, has Puppet Lando seen the Razor Crest? I mean, I know that it's like lightning in a bottle with Puppet Lando, but he did such a great job with his very thorough review of the Jabba sail barge. I'm just the messenger here. People are wanting to know.
Well, we have not heard Puppet Lando's take on the item yet. It's still in the box. I just received it today.
Oh, I see. Oh, so you haven't even taken out of it. Okay.
No.
All right.
No. And I'm going to leave it mint in package.
No, you're
no way.
On, no.
No way am I leaving this bad boy in package. Yeah. But the box itself is not nearly as big as the sail barge was.
It's about a third of the size, I think.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of photos online of the unpacked collectible, and it looks spectacular.
Yeah.
Spectacular. And so I'm eagerly awaiting that particular.
Well, whether it's Puppet Lando, it doesn't matter. We're all anxiously awaiting your review of the Razor Crest. I'm sure you'll be treating
Here's a picture from the Art of book featuring the destruction.
Oh, there it is.
Of the
Razor
the
Crest
Razor
go
Crest.
boom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is from the episode The Tragedy. And there's a funny little notation about this from Ryan Church. He's talking about a meeting between himself and Doug Chang. Doug came to me. Ryan Church, who was actually the designer of the Razor Crest. Keep in mind, okay?
Yeah.
This design is Ryan Church's. Doug came to me and said, I think John's talking about the Razor Crest getting destroyed. And I said, said, oh, you mean, and then it comes back, right?
Like the Enterprise.
Doug's like, no, it really gets blown up. And it gets blown up real good. So I don't know if anybody purchased the Razor Crest with the notion of arming it with a bunch of explosives and blowing the sucker up to recreate that moment. I remember StarWars.com shot a video of the first HasLab, the sail barge, and they blew that sucker up. They used pyrotechnics from films and explosives
No
from
kidding.
films.
I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, they blew it up. Fans got really mad, How could you take that toy and blow it up and all that, I can't even afford the thing, you bastards.
Please. Oh, come on.
Well, it was a spectacular
Sense
video.
of humor, yeah. Come on.
And it's supposed to be fun.
Right.
Yes.
Of course.
Thank you, Jason. Just having fun with Star Wars. Now, the photo we had up, this is of the tank trooper from that episode with Bill Burr, and he's wearing this get-up, and so is the Mando. Oh, the shame. Remember Bill Burr said that to him when he had to wear this instead of his Mando helmet? Oh, the shame. So this is from Doug Chang. He says, an early idea was that the Imperial drivers were wearing the same armor as the AT-AT commanders from Empire Strikes Back. Think like General Veers.
Yeah.
You know? Ultimately, we decided to go with the tank troopers from Rogue One, a design chosen by George Lucas on a Rogue One pre-production set visit. I never knew that George had signed off on the tank trooper design for Rogue One. So was he back there with the maquettes? I don't know.
But we knew that he visited the set of Rogue One. There's some photography of that, but that he was involved in pre-production and actually blessing various concepts.
Yep.
That's very interesting. And again, as we've said many times, the history or the making of Rogue One and also I think The Force Awakens, probably two of the most fascinating backstories in film. I don't think we certainly will never get an official retelling or recalling of that, but hopefully someday we'll get some more detail about it.
Yeah.
It'd be great because
never say never. One of these guys will be in their late 70s and NDA be damned, I'm going to write a book.
Right.
And that's how I would do it. So do we have anything else?
We do. We were talking earlier about Luke Skywalker, and the Disney galleries revealed that the smokescreen for this was Plo Koon.
Yeah. So thus you don't have too much concept art of Luke Skywalker in the final episode of season 2 of The Mandalorian, The Rescue. Directed by Peyton Reed. From Marvel's Ant-Man fame, and including the dramatic introduction of Luke Skywalker into the world of The Mandalorian, which was a plan so secret that no concept art clearly identifying the iconic Jedi was created.
Now, there's a lot of Plo Koon image that I'm looking at right here.
Yes,
I mean, there's the belt buckle,
right?
There's the black glove, the way the tunic falls, everything with the black cloak without the sleeves, everything with the exception of the Plo Koon mask and Plo Koon's lightsaber hilt says Luke Skywalker. This other one is really cool though. It's not Luke Skywalker at all. It's very unique to this Plo Koon concept.
Yes. What do they say about that second one? That's by Mateus again. He says, I explored some looks where the intention was to remove the Jedi aesthetic almost completely. Maybe he's a little darker and you're not really sure about him, potentially. But for the main piece of artwork, that's clearly just, a stand-in for Luke Skywalker in order to preserve the secret of Luke's appearance in Chapter 16. As I said before, no concept art featuring the Jedi Master or R2 was produced. Instead, Dave Filoni's favorite Jedi, Plo Koon, last seen being shot down over Cato Nemoidia during Order 66 in Revenge of the Sith, was illustrated in his place, although he still wore Luke's familiar robes from Return of the Jedi. So basically, it's the concept art is Luke's body with Plo's head on it.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Make sure that you change the lightsaber, too, for some eagle eyes who might have access to this production.
But if you're buying this book or you're picking this book up thinking that you're going to see some beautiful concept art with, a Mark Hamill-looking Luke Skywalker, I don't think it's in there, is it, at all?
No, you won't see anything. Yeah. It's just Plo Koon.
Yeah,
even R2, if you'll notice here, R2 is not represented in the concept art.
He's
as he meets
red-domed.
Grogu. Yeah, a red-domed R2 unit.
Wow.
And this was created by Christian Alsman, again, to maintain the mystery of Luke in The Mandalorian.
Wow.
That's a beautiful piece of
really
concept
cool.
art right there.
You almost want to see it, though, redone with R2 colors because it's such a great piece. Such a great piece.
So that was Christian Alsman.
Wow.
who did that art too. And then the final look here at Plo Koon. It's just a nice action shot of the Jedi here. You can see it's clearly Plo Koon. Blue lightsaber blade, not green. Very careful not to put the green blade in there, because even with Plo Koon's face underneath that hood, the green saber would tip off. It would just be like, oh my God, there's Luke.
But, everyone knows, I mean, it's such a well-known story, though, sometimes we take for granted that people have been listening to us for 15 years. But, Dave Filoni famously dressed as Plo Koon at Celebration 2. And was such a fan of the character that inserting Plo Koon, Dave Filoni inserting Plo Koon into this was not such a stretch. I mean,
right.
A lot of people go, that's Dave. Just like how he put wolves into things, and he's a big fan of wildlife out west and that sort of thing. So those things trickle in. Even his wife's love of all things Tolkien and various concepts of Dave's personal life and likes trickle in. So it would seem
Pittsburgh
natural.
sports teams.
Yes, right. It would seem natural that that Plo Koon would show up. So I don't think anybody was really questioning it.
That's not even scratching the surface of all the cool artwork and annotations in the book about the production of The Mandalorian, but that's the stuff that I felt like was really important. The book just dropped this week, and so it's out there. It's fresh. I found mine at Barnes & Noble. You would have thought I'd have ordered it early, but today I was putting our show together, creating a little outline for our show, and it suddenly dawned on me that there was a new Mandalorian book out that I did not have possession of. So I raced off to Barnes & Noble and paid full price, $40 for this book.
I'm looking this up on Amazon right now. I don't see it. Is this? It's not an exclusive for. Here it is. Oh, now I see it. Okay,
yeah,
that's so strange. All right, there it is. All right, so you can get it.
What do they want for it?
About $26, $27.
Yeah, that's usually what it is. Yeah, from Amazon, and they deliver it to you. I had to schlep out to the shopping mall and. Yeah, it's a hardcover.
And you can pick up season one too. Season one.
I had to do it for this show and this review. It had to be done.
That's the sacrifices that you make. But you can get the season one hardcover for a cool even $20 now.
Half price. Go for it, guys. You go for it. Go for it.
Available at Amazon. All right. We got a trailer to watch? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Well, I don't want to watch the trailer.
Okay,
it's more than a trailer. It's much more than a trailer.
Oh.
You could play it in the background while we talk, I guess.
Well, let me mute it. So.
Yeah. It's very involved. I mean, this is more than a trailer. This is actually like a mini movie in itself.
Yeah.
And it's really great. It's for a video game I've never played, but it's been around for a long time. Star Wars: The Old Republic, celebrating its 10th anniversary. 10 years of Star Wars: The Old Republic.
This is the big MMORPG, right?
That's right. That's right. It's been around for 10 years. Amazing that it survived Order 66 when Disney took over Lucasfilm and they completely wiped out the expanded universe. That was back in 2014. And here's the Old Republic plowing along after all these years with its expanded universe stories about the battle between the Jedi, the ancient battle between the Jedi and the Sith. There is rumors that there is a Star Wars: The Old Republic, or maybe it's KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic. There's a script out there written by Laeta Kalogridis, and that has been floating around Lucasfilm for the past 4 years. Whether or not that seems to see the light of day, I don't know. I think the Game of Thrones guys may have been attached to that particular project.
I think so too.
Yeah. Now it's on the shelf.
Yeah.
So, but Star Wars: The Old Republic, 10 years old, and to mark the milestone, a new expansion dubbed Legacy of the Sith has arrived, and with it, the trailer that Jason's talking about, which is more like a short animated film.
Oh, here comes Malgus, sorry.
Malgus, yeah, Darth Malgus is in it. I love Darth Malgus. I know very little about the character.
Yeah.
I do own the action figure. I know two people who have the life-size Darth Malgus statue.
Wait a minute. You know two people.
Two people. Of course, one.
What are the odds?
And it's massive and impressive. Massive. But one resides at Rancho Obi-Wan, of course.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it stands guard outside of the arcade room and art gallery.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one, and I believe he still owns it. Last time I talked to him, he told me he still has it, is the drummer for Fall Out Boy, Andy Hurley, notoriously known as a huge Star Wars fan himself, and sometimes guest here on Rebel Force Radio.
Has been known to do so.
We attract the rockers because that's Rebel Force Radio rocks. So naturally, rock stars want to hang with us. We had Sin on last week, pop star and rock star Andy Hurley, drummer for the massively successful Fall Out Boy, friend of Rebel Force Radio. He had one in his place in Wisconsin, right in the entrance hallway. So you walk in there, it's like, Malgus.
Yeah. He was a big Sith fan. He had a lot of Darth Maul stuff, had Vader stuff, but yeah.
So this cool animated film, I'm not even going to call it a trailer. It features Jedi Master Orr and his Padawan Sahar, and they discover this weird machine. It's like a gyrosphere kind of steampunky sort of thing. Reminds me a little something out of the TV show Lost, but it's this weird thing, and it's a machine that has a purpose, and apparently the Darksiders, Darth Malgus, uses it, and they go to destroy this machine, these two Jedi, Master and Padawan, and Malgus confronts them, and what we see happening in this animated film apparently plays large in the MMO
in the expansion.
Yes, this new expansion. This is what the guy who is the developer of this game for BioWare in Lucasfilm, Charles Boyd, he's the creative director. He says, in the story of the game up to this point, Darth Malgus has returned to center stage in the last few years. He's been revealed to have a separate plan of his own, independently from the rest of the Sith Empire. Currently at odds with the Jedi as he's always been, he's kind of in pursuit of that plan. The players have been slowly unraveling that mystery and learning what he's up to, and this trailer shows a big part of that, a big element in it. He sets up where he's going to go in the future. And Sahar.
Spoiler alert, there's a big betrayal going on here.
Yeah, there's a betrayal.
Whoa.
Jason, have you
boy.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, yeah.
So
have you seen this trailer before,
I have not.
Jason?
I have not.
Yeah, it's fabulous.
I'm reacting to this first time. So this is almost a what have I done moment, but sort of redone as where the Padawan doesn't outright betray the master, but certainly limits his ability to fight back. And so now she seems to be avenging or trying to avenge his death.
Yes, a little too late.
Yes.
But what happens here, and I think it's fascinating considering the Sith and the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger, anger leads to hate, hate leads to suffering. What we start off with here is Darth Malgus playing on this Padawan's fear of separation from her brother, and planting doubt about the Jedi Order at the same time.
Yeah.
So I strongly recommend you watch it with the full dialogue and everything, because it's what a beautiful trailer. These guys did a wonderful job with it. I totally recommend it. Again, I don't know much about the game. MMOs are rather time consuming, and I don't have time to play anything outside of a quick Pac-Man these days. Just give me a quarter and that's all the time I have. But these games obviously truly popular. It's been around for 10 years and it shows no sign of slowing down.
The line between cinema and, video games, if you can even call them that anymore, they're these just absolute immersive experiences. And as, virtual reality, got Apple, they're going to be throwing down with some virtual reality technology here. They're working on it. I think we're just scratching the surface of just how immersive this stuff is going to be. Incredible.
Yeah. I mean, the way they shoot The Mandalorian, it's with this virtual reality tech.
Yeah.
I mean, the volume and all of that is based on that technology. So, yeah, where do we go next? My God, it's getting scary, Fake people looking real, the dead coming back to life. It's all happening. I mean, Peter Cushing, for crying out loud. So all of this is happening. Yes. And Cushing, that was 6 years ago. Technology has grown by leaps and bounds since Peter Cushing was in Rogue One. Yeah, it's crazy. But we got Kenobi to look forward to.
Sure,
I wonder if we're going to see any de-aged characters in Kenobi or any CG characters in Kenobi. I don't know.
Well, I think they're going to fit in. I wonder if they're going to have to smooth out. It all depends on who Hayden Christensen is playing. If they're going to go back to the Clone Wars era.
They are. That's happening.
All right, so that's happening. So they're going to have to smooth out. Although Hayden Christensen has held up real well.
He has. He looks older, thoh.
But he does look older.
It's
they might have to
forgivable.
smooth that out a little bit. They might have to smooth out Ewan McGregor even a little bit. Give him that more youthful look.
I don't know because we're bridging Obi-Wan and old Ben. And I think it's almost a necessity to show some aging.
No, I'm talking about if they're doing flashbacks.
Flashbacks?
Clone Wars
that could be some de-aging. That could be some de-aging. Yes, I agree. I agree with that. There, Jason put the poster up on the screen again. We saw this earlier. We were talking about it. Sure looks like he's holding a lightsaber there.
It does.
And the twin sons are sitting behind him as he is out in the Dune Sea looking for black melons. I don't know.
Hey, I mean, speaking of Tarkin, if Vader is going to be a figure in this series,
yes,
we know who's holding Vader's leash at this time,
right?
And there is dialogue in Episode 4 about Obi-Wan Kenobi. Between the two. So I wouldn't be a bit surprised if we're going back and forth between what's happening with Obi-Wan and what's happening with, Vader and the very, the almost newborn Empire. Could we see a Grand Moff Tarkin? Obi-Wan Kenobi?
Ooh, possibly.
Yeah.
Possibly. By the time of A New Hope, Vader is stationed on the Death Star.
Right.
And Tarkin is in charge there. But it seems kind of a revelation to Leia when she meets Tarkin. And she goes, I should have expected you to be holding Vader's leash. So I don't think it's really been established prior to that Tarkin had any sort of governance over Darth Vader. I think that's all when Vader gets stationed on the Death Star.
I hadn't really thought about that line until you just brought it up. It also sort of assumes that Leia knows both of them as personalities.
Absolutely.
So she's like, oh, yeah, it's the two of you guys together.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense now. So it's not like Vader just sort of. I don't think Vader was really, certainly not by the time of A New Hope, was in the shadows. He was unknown, and why would he be in the shadows? Because Palpatine was using him as an intimidation factor.
Yes. Yeah, he was known. He was known as some kind of heavy throughout the galaxy, and somebody who carries out the Emperor's dirty work.
Right.
And Leia reveals that she knows who he is right away on board the Rebel blockade runner when she's presented in front of him as a prisoner. She said, only you could be so bold. So his reputation definitely precedes him.
Yes.
So, he's been out and about working as an enforcer throughout the galaxy. And I think that's a slow build for Vader before he really gets revealed as a tactic of fear to keep people in line. I think that happens gradually. I don't think it happens just overnight. Now, I'm sure comics and novels might prove me wrong, but I always thought that there was sort of a period when Vader was really in the shadows early on.
Right.
You know, getting to know himself and his prosthetics as well as possible and connecting with the dark side as much as he can and coming to terms with this new reality of being more machine than man and working on being more twisted and evil too. So I
we all have our goals.
He had a lot on his plate. He had a lot on his plate. And that's why the Inquisitors were sent out to hunt down the Jedi. Vader didn't need to get his hands dirty with that. He needed to connect with the dark side and be the Sith Lord he always knew he could be.
The official description, I believe this is the official description, right? Per Disney Plus?
Yeah, we have an official description of the Kenobi series.
The story begins 10 years after the dramatic events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, in which Obi-Wan Kenobi faced his greatest defeat. The downfall and corruption of his best friend and Jedi apprentice Anakin Skywalker, who turned to the dark side and became the evil Sith Lord, Darth Vader. The series also marks the return of Hayden Christensen in the role of Darth Vader. They don't say in the role of Anakin Skywalker.
No, but we have comments made from Ewan McGregor in an interview he did with Forbes where he reveals that you will see Hayden Christensen and Obi-Wan Kenobi together. It's a reunion. And I'm gonna get that actual quote up for you right now.
All right. While you're doing that, I'll finish here. Joining the cast are Moses Ingram, Joel Edgerton, we know as Uncle Owen from Revenge of the Sith and Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Bonnie Pease, Aunt Beru from the same films, Kumail Nanjiani, Indira Varma, Rupert Friend. Rupert Friend. Now that's a revelation. Do we all know who Rupert Friend is?
No. I've heard of him. Who is he?
Oh, you know what? I'm getting my Ruperts. Whoops. Hold on a second. Getting my Ruperts mixed up. Rupert Friend is...
You're thinking of some Harry Potter guy,
I was thinking of the guy Rupert Friend. Rupert Friend is a great English actor from the series... You're
not getting any help from me, man.
Hold on a second.
You're on your own here. I do not have a lifeline for you. You can phone a friend if you want.
No. I watched it. I watched it all the time. Damn it. Homeland. Yes. With Mandy Patinkin and, what's her name?
I've not seen that show.
Oh, it's a great show. Great show on Showtime. Yeah, Rupert Friend. No, I was thinking of the other Rupert. Rupert, who was from, Harry Potter, played Weasley. It must be a really common name over there. But I do love Rupert Friend. In fact, he was also on a short list and still does show up on some of the short lists to replace Daniel Craig as James Bond. But so that's the first time I've heard his name in association with the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. So Rupert Friend, O'Shea Jackson Jr., Sung Kang, Simone Kessel, and Benny Safdie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds like a great lineup.
Yeah. Executive produced by Kathleen Kennedy, Michelle Rejwan, Deborah Chow, Ewan McGregor, and Joby Harold. I got to be honest.
Other than start flying right there.
Yeah. Other than Edgerton, Bonnie Pease, the only name that sticks out to me is Rupert Friend. So,
Camille Nanjiani. Is
he someone?
Yeah, man.
I don't know who he is.
He was just in the Eternals. He's a comedian. He's been around. We've talked about him on this show, as a matter of fact.
Oh, all right. Well, that's Rupert Friend.
Now, as far as Hayden Christensen goes, who's he going to play? Anakin. Who's he going to play?
Darth Vader.
Well, this is we've heard that. But obviously, there has to be some reason to bring Hayden Christensen back to the fold. It's not just to wear a helmet. They can get anybody to do that. They can get one of the, John Wayne's grandson to do that. But they're bringing back Hayden for that. But we figured it would be much more than that. It would be much more than him with the helmet off in the meditation chamber. We're thinking, there's got to be flashbacks. You got Ewan McGregor, you got Hayden Christensen. Why wouldn't there be flashbacks to the Clone Wars era? And here's what Ewan told Forbes. When speaking about the filming process of this new series, McGregor says, it was a great experience. Deborah Chow directed all the episodes, and she's really good. She directed a couple of episodes of The Mandalorian, and she's a really great director. She knows the Star Wars world inside out far more than I do. We just had a great time. I think it's no secret that Hayden Christensen comes back, and we got to play scenes together again as Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin Skywalker, and it was just fantastic to work with him again. I'm not going to give away anything else about the storyline, only I think it's going to satisfy Star Wars fans.
All. Did we cover this?
No, this only dropped about a week ago.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, we were, really deep into the Book of Boba Fett, right?
Right.
Back then, a week ago. Remember a week ago, the old days?
Yeah.
The good old days during Boba Fett. That's all we could think about back then. So, we didn't really cover this.
This was in
if there was a soundbite with it, we would have covered it.
Yeah, but hey, it's just in print, Anybody can cover that.
Yeah, we work in an audio medium here, folks. So,
right. Well, that's cool.
Yeah,
so
stuff with sound bites have priority sometimes.
So he admits that he's with Hayden as Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's a big reveal right there. Big reveal. So Kenobi, gosh, just a few months away. And we'll be doing the after shows.
Oh, yeah. I can't wait.
Our first one will be from Anaheim for Star Wars Celebration.
Travel Day, we found out. Yeah. So we're going to get to the hotel room. We're going to set up our little makeshift broadcast studio. We'll be on the YouTubes for you. Get out the cardboard box, throw the gear in there, ship it on out.
I anticipate a wacky show that night for the debut of this series.
Jet lagged and all.
Jet lag. I mean, it's just to the West Coast. How jet lag can you possibly get?
I don't know. I get pretty.
Swank gets jet lag driving to work every day.
No doubt.
He's like, the commute just, oh my God, it just wiped me out.
Yeah, so these two showing back up together, very cool. Although, we were talking about who else we might see on the series. I think we'll see an Ahsoka Tano show up in one of these
I think
flashbacks.
that there's a strong possibility of seeing Ahsoka on this, yes. In the flashback. Which is going to be fantastic to really cement her role in the Star Wars cinematic universe. She's no more just part of this animation afterthought. She's going to be on screen with Hayden as Anakin and Obi-Wan as Ewan as Obi-Wan. It's going to be mind-blowing. This is just what we want to see, folks, but I think the possibility is strong, very strong. I can see the headlines next week. Rebel Force Radio confirms Ahsoka Tano. But they won't give us those headlines. They only give the headlines to the Star Wars speculation porn YouTube channels. It doesn't get more Star Wars porn than wanting to see Anakin, Ahsoka, and Obi-Wan together, is it? Oh, geez, that didn't come out right. All right, let's talk about comics or novels.
Let's talk about the novel. All right, if you can't get enough of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and who can, you might want to check out this new novel. This is coming out. This isn't out yet, right? This is coming. This book by Mike Chen, Brotherhood, which takes place between episodes 2 and episodes 3.
Yeah, this is a Clone Wars era novel. I have a little piece of audio that I would like you to play, if you wouldn't mind.
Right now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This sets the tone.
Well, you owe me one, and not for saving your skin for the 10th time.
9th time. That business on Cato Nemoidia doesn't count.
It doesn't count.
Yes.
StarWars.com. StarWars.com asked the question, what really happened on Cato Nemoidia? Inquiring minds want to know. And
You don't want to know what happened on Cato Nemoidia.
You don't want to know. What happens on Cato Nemoidia stays on Cato
That's
Nemoidia.
right.
Okay?
That's right.
But no, not if Mike Chen is involved with pen and paper. He's got a whole book about it, and it's arriving on May 10th. Brotherhood. It picks up after the events of Attack of the Clones. Clone Wars are raging across the galaxy. Anakin and Padme secretly are married. So this is post-marriage. Yeah. Following an explosion that devastates Cato Nemoidia, the jewel of the Trade Federation, blame falls on the Republic. The Jedi Council sends Obi-Wan to the planet, and in his investigation, he comes to sense the presence of dark side warrior Asajj Ventress. Well, that's great. So Ventress coming back. We haven't seen or heard anything from Ventress. Did we see her in season 7 of the Clone Wars? I don't think we did. No,
not in season 7. No.
So we haven't seen Asajj Ventress for several years in any kind of new Star Wars storytelling, not since the Dark Disciple novel. And that was all we've seen or heard of.
Well,
Asajj
that was the last
Ventress.
of Asajj Ventress, wasn't it?
Yeah, right. In the Disney era of Star Wars.
Yeah.
But here she's coming back. Fan favorite Asajj Ventress.
I'd love to see her in live action. They could do some really cool.
Yeah.
You know who'd be great would be that
Sonny from New Orleans wants to see her in live action as well.
Who's the bald chick from the Who's the bald
Who's that
lady?
bald chick?
Yeah, who's the bald lady from the Marvel Cinematic Universe from the Doctor Strange? She's fantastic. I think she was also in the she played the Borg lady in Star Trek First Contact.
I know.
I don't know the name of the actress, but she'd be great as Asajj Ventress. Mm-hmm. She kicks some serious, you know what?
Yes. Although I picture Asajj being a little younger in the Clone Wars era.
Do you? She's kind of ageless. I don't know.
Yeah. That's because she's so young.
I don't know.
That's what happens when you're young. You're ageless. When you get older, age catches up to you.
Yes.
But so we get an Anakin and an Obi-Wan here, both recently receiving promotions. Anakin to Jedi Knight and Obi-Wan to the Jedi Council, which was a revelation for us when we saw Revenge of the Sith and we saw Obi-Wan sitting there on the council. Like, I knew they had established Obi-Wan as being by the book in episode 1, but I was very surprised to see he was actually sitting on the Jedi Council by episode 3. And so maybe we get a little bit of, we get into Obi-Wan's head a little bit as this stuff is happening. And same with Anakin, it's one of those, maybe with Obi-Wan, he always wanted to be on the council, and then he gets on the council, and it's one of those situations. Be careful of what you wish for because it might come true. That's what I would like to see, a conflicted Obi-Wan having to deal with the sluggish hierarchy of the Jedi Council.
Yes, I agree. And it's funny because you see him talking to Qui-Gon in episode 1, and he's sort of like, well, if you would just, he's basically saying, if you just toe the line, if you just do the right thing and say the right things, you'd be on the council. And, and later he does go on, he is on the council. And, what's the breaking point for Obi-Wan? Because at some point he does become a little bit frustrated with being, the perpetual rule follower, the Boy Scout. He is the Boy Scout. He's the he's the straight A student. He's the overachiever. He's the company man of the Jedi
He's
Council.
living up to his potential too, because Qui-Gon said, "I foresee you will become a great Jedi Knight."
Yes.
When somebody like Qui-Gon Jinn says that to you, your destiny is kind of set in stone, and you have to live up to that. And so that puts pressure on Obi-Wan Kenobi that I don't think has really been explored very much in any Star Wars storytelling whatsoever. So this could be an opportunity for that, or this book won't touch on that at all. I don't know.
Who knows?
But
when does it come
the title
out?
of the book, It's in May. Actually, just a couple of weeks before the Kenobi series drops. So I'm going to jump all over this book. Brotherhood. And the title alone, Brotherhood. We're like brothers, Anakin.
Yes. Yes.
I think a lot of fans don't feel very fulfilled from the films as far as establishing that brotherhood. Now, we see it, I think, in the Clone Wars animated series, but not really, really delved into. Maybe this book will do that.
Well, maybe the relationship was, when you think about relationships with your own brother, it's not all roses.
Oh, hell no.
There's a sense of competition, and there's all kinds of things. So, maybe we as fans just assumed that it was, that best friendy kind of thing. And the reality is that what we're seeing is, they may have had their moments, but they were, there was almost a rivalry between the two of them. And when you see Obi-Wan in A New Hope and he's talking to Luke about Anakin, he was the best star pilot in the galaxy, a cunning warrior, and a good friend. It's a very, he's waxing, the rose tinted glasses of looking back at the past.
And a sense of loss.
And a sense of loss, for sure. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, the potential that was there. It's like you don't realize what someone or something means to you until they're gone. And then for them to, exit your life in such a profoundly tragic way, and the betrayal and all of that. It's a big, it's a huge loss for him. And I hope that in this Kenobi series, we see some of the ramifications of that. And we see him reliving. I could see Kenobi having, nightmares almost about what happened on Mustafar.
Well, of course he's going to be in the back-to-pod for all the flashbacks.
Well, that's what you have to do.
That's been established.
Right.
That is very Star Warsy. Very Star Warsy.
I don't know how he was flashing back without the back-to-pod. I mean, how hard would it be?
That? They totally established it in Book of Boba Fett, and now it's not happening in Kenobi. Where's the consistency? Kathleen Kennedy totally needs to be fired. All right, Kenobi Comics news. Marvel Comics. We got a new Kenobi comic series.
Oh, man, the Kenobi just keeps coming.
Well. So, May is going to be the month of Kenobi. Marvel's recently announced Star Wars Obi-Wan kicks off in May, a new series which the Jedi Master chronicles earlier adventures in his own journals. Now, this is something that's been established over the course of the Marvel Comics line going back a few years now. Luke Skywalker discovers a journal from Ben Kenobi when he goes back to Tatooine.
Yes.
And so through the journal, he gets Jedi knowledge and more of a sense of Ben Kenobi, the person. And so that's a nice way to incorporate Obi-Wan into the current arc of Star Wars storytelling as it is in the original trilogy. Obi-Wan tells of a formative adventure he experienced as a youngling, and each subsequent installment will focus on a different period in the iconic hero's journey. So lots of potential there.
So each issue will be its own standalone adventure. Is that what they're saying, or
each installment? Well, I guess that could mean each issue, but I'm looking at it more in terms of story arcs that they tell. But it could be just, one-offs after one-off, and I'd be fine with that. This is Ben Kenobi as he spends his final days in the remote deserts of Tatooine, and he takes time to reflect on and record key moments of a heroic life long lived. So I wonder if any of the television episodes, this streaming series, I wonder if that's going to come into play in any of these stories. Maybe they'll expand on some things that we get from the
that would be cool.
Streaming series, if there's that type of synergy going on.
Yeah. I don't know. They're so secretive about this.
Very
stuff
secretive.
Anymore,
Yes.
If you remember, there were in the early days of the Clone Wars, they were doing a series of web comics where you would actually be able to get some backstory on things that were happening in the Clone Wars through these web comics, and I thought that was a pretty cool idea. And they actually bound them together and did some limited print runs and things like that. So I like the idea. That would actually get me. I think about Book of Boba Fett, Jim, and I think about some of the questions we were asking ourselves in the after shows. And if there was an outlet for the creatives to sort of pour some of that stuff that didn't quite make it onto the screen into a comic book, that would get me into reading it. It really would. And I'm a guy that's on the bubble about comic books. But if I knew that I could pick up an issue of Kenobi every couple of months, and that's the other thing. It's like comics, they used to come out, monthly. And I know sometimes it's a real struggle, even for these quote unquote monthly books, to actually come out monthly. Production schedules are very difficult these days. So yeah, it might not work, but certainly after the series, wraps up, or the season wraps up, whatever it ends up being, to have a few issues that tie in and give us some, more fodder for our after shows, that'd be kind of fun. Yeah.
I believe the bulk of the storytelling in this comic series is going to be based on the earliest days of Obi-Wan as a Padawan. Maybe when Qui-Gon chooses him to be his Padawan, etc. There's even a tale in this comic book which is going to feature an adventure. He narrowly survives in this adventure on Coruscant when he was only 8 years old. So we're going to have 8-year-old Alec Guinness in this.
Alec Guinness.
Does he have the beard? We'll find out. But this is, so this is early years of Obi-Wan stuff. So I don't know how much this is going to be. There's going to be much synergy between this and the live action series, but it's going to fill in some of the earliest adventures.
Now check this out. I got a photo here. Is this from? Yeah, this is from the forthcoming Kenobi series. We've got an Obi-Wan with Chrysanthemum.
Yes.
Who became known to a lot of fans like me who didn't read the comics through Book of Boba Fett.
All right. Well, let me tell you a little bit about this image you're looking at.
All right.
Chrysanthemum is going to get his own story told in the pages of Marvel Comics.
Oh, this is not
looking
in the
at
Kenobi
here
series.
No.
I see. Okay.
This is from a new title called Star Wars Tales Chrysanthemum #1.
And that is Obi-Wan, right?
That is Obi-Wan.
Okay. All right.
Here's the official description. He thrilled audiences in the Book of Boba Fett. Now experience the stories that made him a legend. The deadly Wookiee bounty hunter called Chrysanthemum is almost unstoppable, but you can get him on your side for a price. On the desert world of Tatooine, witness Chrysanthemum hunt down Jedi in hiding Obi-Wan Kenobi in a tale set between Star Wars Episodes 3 and 4. Then, as the Rebel Alliance clashes with Darth Vader, get ready for the ultimate Wookiee fight. Who will be left standing when Chrysanthemum takes on Chewbacca? In the cage. No.
That was what I was
WrestleMania. Finally, learned Chrysanthemum's origins from his years in the gladiator pits to an alliance with Dr. Aphra to serve up some well-deserved revenge. So that sounds pretty interesting. They've dropped the black Chrysanthemum now, inspired by the Book of Boba Fett, just calling him Chrysanthemum. And that's what that's going to be all about. So Obi-Wan Kenobi is going to feature in this story as well. Do we see a young Luke Skywalker laying there?
I looked at this and I thought, well, is that Luke? I don't think it is.
Shorty robe.
We got shorty robe and we got sort of tousled blonde hair. But when you look at the next frame, I don't know. I'm looking at this. That to me, that doesn't look like Luke Skywalker.
No, that does not resemble Mark Hamill.
No,
it's hard to tell.
He's kind of got a double chin going on down there. And, yeah, but I tell you what, I look at this Chrysanthemum and then I go, oh, that's where they got this. The Black Series action figure that was revealed. Now, if you were watching the Book of Boba Fett like I was and just chomping at the bit to get your hands on a chrysanthemum action figure, be it 4-inch or 6-inch or whatever inch, you were probably disappointed by this reveal. Man, oh man, I was disappointed. This is a repainted Chewbacca Black Series action figure with some very just kind of plain armor, these shoulder pads with the spikes. And I mean, they even got him with Chewie's bowcaster, a kind of sadly retooled bowcaster. I don't see him carrying a bowcaster around in Book of Boba Fett, but when you look at these shots from the comic, I mean, I guess I can sort of see where they got the look. I wanted Book of Boba Fett Chrysanthemum, not this.
Chrysanthemum is much bigger and bulkier, more muscular than Chewbacca, especially in the legs.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, what you're clearly getting with this Black Series is a repaint of a Chewbacca figure. And the lack of detail is astonishing on this figure. I mean, they don't even have like the white hair on his face at all or on his forehead. You know, he's got, I mean, maybe there's a little bit of it, but there's really whiteness in like the beard area that we're not seeing here. Clearly a resculpted Chewbacca repainted with little detail added on.
Very little, not much retooling.
Yeah, maybe more of a furrowed brow and a little scar there. And then the gladiator bandolier he's wearing, it lacks any sense of detail whatsoever. It's just all one solid color. And so they're saying, well, this is based on the comic books. So you got to cut him some slack there. Baloney. The only reason this figure is coming out because of the popularity of Chrysanthemum in the Book of Boba Fett, not the popularity of Chrysanthemum in the comic books.
Right.
No way. And so they just don't even come close. This is a fail from top to bottom by Hasbro, and quite honestly, a cash grab where they're patronizing the Star Wars fandom audience.
Yeah.
I don't like to see it.
Yeah, no, I agree. Now, they are going to be packaging him in one of those sort of what the Black Series has done with those comic-inspired figures, you know, like there was a Luke Skywalker, ceremonial Luke Skywalker to sort of look like that Luke of the Marvel, the classic Marvel comics in that era. There was a Darth Maul, a shirtless Maul. There was the Jackson, speaking of, classic Marvel characters and all that. So they're, but you're absolutely right, Jim. The only reason that anybody cares about this character right now is because, with few exceptions, is because of his role on Book of Boba Fett. And that's the look that people want. They're going to be buying this thing off, in the stores. They don't know that he wears this gold armor and this He-Man looking chest piece or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah, you get some acrylic paints, and you could probably do a good
nice
job on this figure. Yeah, bring it up to speed a little bit, so it matches your standards as a Star Wars fan. Because quite honestly, in its current state, as it's going to hit the shelves, it doesn't match my standards as a Star Wars fan whatsoever. But we all know that those are standards that are impossible to meet. No, actually, you know what? I mean, I've just noticed that with the heavily criticized Book of Boba Fett, that maybe my standards aren't as high as I thought they were for a Star Wars fan, because I just had a good old-fashioned time with that series. And was it perfect? No. But was it entertaining to me as a hardcore, longtime Star Wars fan from the original day, the original year the film dropped? It had all of the things that I like as far as fan fulfillment goes. And I'm not talking about fan service. I just despise the echo chamber of the internet for laying that fan service thing on us. If you use that, you're saying to me you're above being a fan.
Right.
And I get tired of that.
Yes, I agree. I mean, look, there's good execution and bad execution. But fan service as a overall description of just playing within the universe of whatever the franchise is. That's what they describe a lot of times. It's like,
Yes.
this character shows up. That's fan service. Well,
There's Jawas. This is fan service.
right.
No, this is part of the universe.
Right, it's part of the universe. Exactly. Exactly. Hey, speaking of the universe, if you've ever fantasized about attending the wedding of Han Solo and Princess Leia, you're in luck. Guess what? There's a book coming out, and you're invited.
Yeah, of course there is. There is a book coming out, and there's a couple things about this book that really frost my ass, let me just say. But I'll get to that in a second. All right. Let me read to you the description of the book, okay? And the reason, let me just cut to the chase, too. The reason it frosts my ass is because we've already heard the story of Han and Leia and their wedding. I mean, that was all told in the Courtship of Princess Leia novel that came out during the height of the expanded universe era in the mid-90s, written by Dave Wolverton, who just passed away. And that was called The Courtship of Princess Leia. Now, let me read to you the press release from Lucasfilm. And this press release was also posted to StarWars.com, so you know I'm not making it up. But here's the first line. We've seen the courtship of Princess Leia unfold on screen. Now, a new book cordially invites fans to attend the wedding of Leia Organa and Han Solo. So you're actually going to use the phrase, the courtship of Princess Leia, in your press release while you present us with another most likely lackluster book that eliminates part of the beloved expanded universe from our past? That's what you're going to do? You're going to use that phrase, the courtship of Princess Leia, in your press release for this book. I don't like it. I just don't like it. I think it's a slap in the face. And considering the author of The Courtship of Princess Leia, Dave Wolverton, just passed away.
What an easy way to pay homage to him.
Yeah.
Is to
instead,
say,
Instead, they, you know. So
tacky.
Here's the deal. It's tacky. It is a little tacky. I was disappointed. Star Wars, The Princess and the Scoundrel, a new novel from author Beth Revis, arriving this summer. Set just after the events of Star Wars Return of the Jedi, the story begins on the forest moon of Endor, where Han proposes in the elation of the rebel victory against the Empire. So Han proposes right after they blow up the Death Star too.
Man.
He's been unfrozen from carbonite for what, like 3 days, you know?
You know, a little hibernation, you know, takes care of the cold feet, I guess.
Yeah, mixed with some Endorian whiskey from the Ewoks. I'm gonna marry that woman. And, you know, we've all known the guy.
Oh.
So, and it also might explain, you know, it's a shotgun wedding all of a sudden. So that might explain why Han and Leia aren't a couple by the time we catch up to them in The Force Awakens. Is because, you know, the basis of their relationship was a drunken victory celebration on Endor.
Wait a minute.
They got married right then and there.
Oh.
After a ceremony at the site of the victory celebration at the end of the film, the newlyweds depart for a honeymoon. And here's the part that makes me want to reach for the barf bag. The newlyweds depart for a honeymoon aboard the Halcyon Star Cruiser, the luxury vessel at the heart of the new Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser experience at Disney World Resort. So this novel is basically a commercial for the Star Wars Hotel. Can they do anything right with this Star Wars Hotel, I'm wondering?
You're telling me.
That's insulting.
You're telling
That's
me
insulting.
that they are going to exploit the union of two of the most iconic characters in the history of film. I mean, we're talking about, up there with Rhett Butler and Scarlett O'Hara, Romeo and Juliet. We're talking about icons of romance in entertainment, and they're going to use it for, as Ralphie in A Christmas Story would say, a crummy commercial.
Yes, they just want your reservation for $6,000, my friend. That's all this is here.
That's the wedding suite where Han and Leia stayed. Ooh. Can I have that? Yeah, for an extra $5,000.
Han Solo stayed there for sure. Yeah, you could still smell the weed. Yeah. That's a Harrison Ford joke.
He's licking the toads. Oh my gosh! You can't write that. You can't make that kind of stuff up. That is
very heavy-handed story group garbage going on here and then now. So I'll skip that one. I will. Well, maybe I won't.
I don't know, man. That. Because throughout the novel, you just keep hearing him say, this is really a good deal. I mean, all you can eat.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we did have to pay extra for some of those alcoholic beverages, but we had lightsaber training and play sabacc, and then we went into the lounge and we heard Gaia sing. It was just mesmerizing.
Oh, that's their wedding song. That song that she sang to the kid from Goldberg's. Yeah, that was their wedding song, right?
The kid from Goldberg's, he was there. It was amazing. $6,000. I don't know. Gotta go to Galaxy's Edge.
Oh, man. Oh, just when you think you've heard it all. Man, oh, man.
Drink more Ovaltine.
This is why we don't cover the books very much. All right, that's going to wrap things up for this week. Thank you all very much for joining us. Don't forget, if you would like more Rebel Force Radio in your life, there's no better way to get that than through Rebel Force Radio on Patreon. All you got to do is just go to rebelforceradio.com and click on the Patreon banner, and you'll be taken to the place where you can sign up at some of the various membership levels. Like, we got as little as $1 a month. Come on, who can't afford $1 a month for more Rebel Force Radio? And you're going to want more RFR when you hear about all of the great things that we have, such as exclusive podcasts. Podcasts that you can't just go on iTunes and get them. No. You got to be a Patreon member. Things like RFR Comlink, RFR Q&A, the Babu Freaks, Clone Wars Declassified Remastered, and the exclusive home of composer Bobby Lopez's favorite podcast, Star Wars Oxygen, those archives, all that and more available through Patreon. Also, when you call into one of our live shows and identify yourself to our call screener as a Patreon member, you get advanced access. You get pushed to the head of the line. And you also are joining a community of some of the greatest Star Wars fans in the galaxy. All those details, as we say, at patreon.com/rebelforceradio. And don't forget about our friends at Shopify. Check them out. Shopify. Also, you can join Rebel Force Radio in Nashville next month at ICCCon. Get your tickets at iccollectorscon.com. Use the code RebelForce10 at checkout to save 10% off your ticket price. And another way to get more Rebel Force Radio in your life, and why wouldn't you want that, is through our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/RebelForceRadio. Links all over the official website, rebelforceradio.com. From classic interviews and parodies and bits over the last 15 years of Star Wars podcasting to our latest live stream after shows, such as all of the Book of Boba Fett after shows and Mandalorian seasons 1 and 2 and Bad Batch. They're all there. Check it out. All their own playlists, plus new full show audio released each and every week as the Rebel Force Radio podcasts are put out. So please like and subscribe today at the official Rebel Force Radio YouTube channel. And you can also talk to us in between shows. We like to hear from you. Show at rebelforceradio.com. That's the email address, and the voicemail line is open 24/7 at 708-320-1RFR. We're on all the socials, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out. That Twitter handle is RFR Rebel Force. But above all, the best way to support us here at Rebel Force Radio is to keep listening. Subscribe. Tell your friends. Everyone's got that Star Wars friend, but do they listen to Rebel Force Radio? Introduce them to Star Wars, or to Rebel Force Radio. And if your podcatcher of choice allows you to do so, we'd love to have a review. Just one simple rule, please.
Make them good.
And we're streaming 24/7 through services like Apple Podcasts, iHeart, TuneIn, Spotify, Stitcher, Amazon, Audible, Pandora, Samsung. Anywhere you can find podcasts, you'll find us right here at Rebel Force Radio. Until next time, for Rebel Force Radio, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
Rebel Force Radio. Kenobi!